A cruise looks easy until you realize the ship runs on quiet rules nobody announces. Not because they forgot, because it's better for them if you learn the hard way. If you know these hidden moves, you'll sleep better, spend less, skip lines, and avoid those awkward, sorry, not permitted moments that hit people in the first 2 days. So today, we're counting down 12 cruise secrets that are basically never told to passengers. Not conspiracies, just real tactics experienced cruisers use to stay calm, move smarter, and enjoy the ship like they've done this before. Secret number 12. Ship time can betray your phone. Picture this. You step off in port. Your phone updates automatically. You feel on schedule. And you're not. Because the ship may be running on ship time, not local time. And ship time wins every single argument. Cruise lines rarely explain this clearly because it creates chaos fast. Half the ship starts asking which clock is real, and crew end up managing panic instead of passengers. Here's how people get caught. They check their phone for the time. They plan one last coffee, one last souvenir stop, or one last photo. Then they arrive at the pier and see the gangway is closing. The staff scanning cards like a metronome. No drama, no debate. Just all aboard means all aboard. Fix it with one simple rule. Choose one clock and obey it. The safest one is the cruise line app and the printed daily planner. On day 1, set a watch manually to ship time and don't let it auto-update. If you don't wear a watch, set your lock screen to a ship time note and check the app before you leave the ship. Also, treat all aboard like a flight. Aim to be back 60 to 90 minutes early, especially on tender ports or heavy traffic days, because the only time a cruise becomes stressful is the moment you start negotiating with the clock. Secret number 11. Deck maps are marketing maps, not walking maps. Here's the funny thing about cruise deck maps. They make the ship look like a cozy little mall. In real life, that quick walk can feel like you're crossing an airport. Twice. The maps aren't lying exactly. They're just designed to feel friendly. Clean icons, neat sections, venues that look right next to each other. But ships are built like long neighborhoods, and the layout often nudges you through the places that make money. Bars, shops, photo counters, specialty dining entrances, just to reach basic stuff. That's why passengers constantly say, "Why are we always passing the casino?" Because the ship wants foot traffic to flow through it. The fix is to stop thinking in rooms and start thinking in zones. Break the ship into 3 parts: forward, mid, and aft. Then pick 2 stairwells you like and make them your default routes. You'll learn them fast and you'll stop wandering in circles. One more trick. Find the ship's highway deck. Usually a main promenade or lobby level where you can walk long distances without dead ends. When you master the routes, the ship suddenly feels smaller and you stop arriving everywhere tired, hungry, and easy to upsell. Secret number 10. Elevators are programmed for crowd flow, not your convenience. And let's clear something up. The elevators aren't slow. They're doing exactly what they're designed to do: move crowds in predictable waves. On a cruise ship, elevators are basically traffic control. Around dinner time, show time, sail away, and disembarkation, the ship knows where people are trying to go. So the elevator system often leans toward managing flow over helping you personally get from deck 6 to deck 8 in peace. That's why it feels like you wait forever. Then 3 elevators arrive back to back, all full, all going the wrong direction, stopping at every deck like a sightseeing tour. The fix is almost annoying because it's simple. Change your starting point. If the elevator bank is slammed, walk 1 deck up or 1 deck down and try again. You'll be shocked how often that flips your luck, because you're no longer competing with the biggest crowd surge. Next, stop trying to catch elevators right before major events. If your show starts at 7, don't call the elevator at 6:55. Get moving 10 to 15 minutes earlier, and you'll feel like a genius instead of a hostage. And for anything under 3 decks, take the stairs. Not as a fitness thing, as a time thing. Elevators on cruises are for big jumps. Stairs are for quick wins. Now, once you accept the elevator system isn't built for fairness, you stop fighting it and you start beating it. Secret number 9. Your cruise card isn't just payment. It's a pattern tracker. Quick question. How many times does your cruise card get scanned in a day? Dining room, boarding in port, buying coffee, checking into an event, entering certain areas, sometimes even grabbing towels. That little card isn't just your key, it's your digital footprint on board. And no, this isn't some spooky conspiracy. It's just how modern cruise ships run efficiently. Scans help with security, staffing, access control, and yes, marketing. Because once the system learns what you do, it can decide what to offer you. That's why some people get hit with very specific deals. A spa discount randomly appears after you toured the spa. A specialty dining promo pops up after you've walked past the host stand twice. A casino invite comes after you spent time there. Here's how to use this without getting annoyed. Be intentional in the first 24 hours. If you actually want certain perks, coffee, shows, trivia, a specific lounge, show up early and let the system see you there. But if you hate sales pressure, avoid the biggest funnel events, raffles, free skincare demos, art auctions, jewelry previews. Those are built to scan you in and keep you in the pipeline. Your card is a tool. The secret is acting like it. Secret number 8. Last chance announcements are timed to push you. You know that voice that comes on right when you are finally relaxed, halfway packed up, and thinking about dinner? The one that says something like, "Final reminder," or "Last opportunity." Most passengers hear that and instantly speed up, second-guess plans, or start spending money they were not planning to spend. The timing is not random. Announcements are often scheduled to hit when crowds are moving, when lines are forming, and when decision-making gets sloppy. Right before reboarding, right before shows, right before the dinner rush. The ship is trying to keep flow predictable, reduce guest service headaches later, and yes, drive a few extra purchases while you are tired and suggestible. Here's the trick. Treat urgent announcements as a cue to slow down, not speed up. If it matters, verify it inside the cruise app or the daily planner. If it's about an event, ask a crew member a simple question that forces clarity, like whether it is a true cutoff or just a reminder. You'll be surprised how often the urgency melts the moment you ask it plainly. And once you start hearing announcements as nudges instead of commands, you stop getting yanked around by the ship's rhythm. You stay on your plan, and that is when cruising starts to feel easy. Secret number 7. Sold-out excursions often come back. I have watched the same story play out on 100 ships. A passenger sees an excursion marked sold out, panics, and buys the more expensive alternative because it feels like the only option. Then later, like magic, the original excursion reappears. Now they're annoyed or stuck or trying to cancel under stricter rules. This happens because sold out does not always mean full. It often means capped. Cruise lines hold inventory back to keep groups manageable, to confirm staffing, and to protect the timeline in port. They also know urgency makes people spend faster. So the move is patience with a plan. If you truly want that tour, keep checking the night before the port day and again early in the morning. Cancellations clear, people change their minds, and the system updates. Even better, go to the excursions desk and ask if there's a wait list or a standby process. Some ships will quietly tell you exactly when openings tend to appear. If you're finding these helpful, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next tips that make cruising feel easier from day one. And remember, the best cruisers do not chase the first screen they see. They treat it like inventory, not fate. Secret number 6. The best food is often not dinner in the main dining room. Most people assume dinner is where the ship tries hardest because it feels like the main event. But dinner service is usually the most crowded, the most rushed, and the most assembly line part of the day. The dining room has to feed a huge number of guests on a tight schedule, which means consistency matters more than wow. The surprise is that the ship's food often shines when fewer people are eating. Lunch can be better than dinner, especially on sea days when chefs have more flexibility and the pace is calmer. Port days can be even better because a big portion of passengers are off the ship and the venues on board suddenly feel quiet and well managed. So the smart move is to flip your thinking. Instead of chasing a perfect dinner every night, pick one day and make lunch your best meal window. Go a little later than the first rush, when lines thin out and the kitchen is back in rhythm. If you have a port day where you return early, eat on board before the crowds come back. You get better service, better seating, and a meal that feels more relaxed. If you want the real shortcut, ask a crew member a simple question that invites honesty. Ask where they would eat if they were off duty and choosing for themselves. You will often hear a venue name that was never on your radar. Secret number 5. Crew often see the mistake coming, but cannot warn you first. Here is a frustrating truth that becomes obvious once you notice it. Crew members often see problems coming before you do. They can spot the guest who is about to overbook the first 2 days, the couple about to choose the wrong excursion for their mobility level, or the passenger about to spend money on something that will not match how they actually cruise. But many staff are trained to avoid unsolicited warnings, not because they don't care, but because proactive advice can turn into complaints. If they tell you an option is not worth it, and you take it personally, it becomes a conflict. If they discourage an activity and you insist, it becomes a liability. So they stay polite, keep it neutral, and wait until you ask. That's why the best cruisers don't ask, "What do you recommend?" in a general way. They ask a question that gives the crew permission to be real. The most effective version is, "If this were your cruise, would you do this?" Now it sounds simple, but it changes the entire conversation. Use it before you spend, before you lock in reservations, and before you commit to a port plan that cannot be undone. You'll often get a calmer, more practical answer than any brochure could ever provide. Secret number 4. Certain cabins get faster help, even without better tips. This is one of those things that people don't want to believe because it feels unfair, but it's mostly just logistics. Some cabins get faster response simply because of where they sit on the ship. If you're closer to service corridors, supply routes, or the areas where crew are already moving all day, your request can get handled sooner. It's not always about status, and it's not always about money. It's about how quickly someone can reach you in the flow of their work. You see it with small things first. Extra towels show up faster. Ice arrives sooner. A quick fix like a stuck closet door gets handled the same afternoon instead of later tonight. Meanwhile, someone on a far end of a quiet hallway waits longer, not because they did something wrong, but because they're simply farther from the ship's busy arteries. Now, if you cannot change your cabin, you can still play it smart. Put in requests earlier in the day, before the big rush hits. Combine what you need into one message, so it's one trip, not 3. If the cruise line app lets you request housekeeping or maintenance, use it, because it routes the task instead of relying on whoever you happen to catch in the hallway. The ship runs like a machine, and the people who get fast help are the ones who make it easier for the machine to say yes. Now, here's the part most passengers never connect, because it looks like entertainment, but it's actually strategy. Secret number 3. The first big show is often the worst one. On night 1, a lot of passengers judge the whole cruise by the first production show, and that is exactly why this secret matters. The first big show often is not the best version of itself. Early in the sailing, performers are settling into the ship's rhythm. Technical cues get tightened, timing gets improved, and the crowd energy is still finding its footing. Even when the cast is strong, the first run can feel a little stiff or shortened compared to later nights. There's also a practical reason it can feel weaker. Night one crowds are chaotic. People are tired from travel, still learning the layout, still figuring out dinner, and still showing up late. That changes the vibe in the room, and it changes how the performance lands. So the move is simple. If a show matters to you, aim for night 2, 3, or 4 when everything is smoother. If there are multiple show times, the later one can be better because the space is calmer and the staff are not managing as much confusion. And if it says full, don't assume you're done. Arrive early because no-shows happen constantly and seats often open up right before the lights go down. The passengers who think the cruise has better entertainment are usually just seeing the same show at the right time. Secret number 2. Cabin placement can make you love or hate the whole week. Let's say 2 people book the same cabin category at the same price. One sleeps like a baby. The other spends the week exhausted and irritated, convinced the ship has paper-thin walls. What changed is not the category, it's the location. Some cabins live under high activity zones like the pool deck, buffet, or gym. That is where chairs scrape early, carts roll, and footsteps start before your brain is ready to be awake. Other cabins sit near areas where the ship hums more, like certain mechanical spaces, or where vibration travels differently through the structure. None of that shows up in glossy cabin descriptions, and it usually isn't mentioned unless you complain. The smarter move is to choose your cabin like you're choosing your sleep schedule. Before you book, look at the deck plans and check what is directly above and below. If you want quiet, avoid being directly under the busiest public decks. If you're sensitive to motion, midship tends to feel steadier than far forward or far aft. If you already booked and you suspect you picked a loud spot, take control early by packing simple earplugs and using them as a backup, not a routine. A cruise can be perfect, but if you cannot rest, everything feels harder than it needs to be. And now for the number 1 secret, the one that gets people quietly turned away without anyone raising their voice. Secret number 1. Dress code exists even when nobody announces them. The dress code on many cruises is real, but it is enforced in a way that keeps the ship looking calm. You rarely see an argument because staff do not argue. They simply redirect you politely and keep the line moving. That is why passengers think dress codes are not enforced until the night they walk up hungry and get stopped. It happens most often at dinner, in the main dining room, at specialty restaurants, and in certain lounges later in the evening. The exact rules vary by cruise line, but the pattern stays the same. If you show up in pool attire, flip-flops, a swim cover-up, very ripped jeans, or something that reads like sleepwear, you can be told it is not permitted for that venue at that time. The wording is usually soft, but the result is firm. The easiest way to never deal with this is to pack one simple evening-safe outfit that works anywhere. Nothing fancy, just presentable and comfortable. Keep it ready on sea nights and on any night that feels like a nice dinner night. If you're unsure, ask the host stand before you commit to the line, because that small question saves the awkward walk back to the cabin. Most people don't get turned away because they're disrespectful. They get turned away because nobody warned them that the rule was real. If you enjoyed these cruise secrets, subscribe for more videos that help you save money, avoid stress, and cruise with confidence. And tell me in the comments which secret surprised you most. Then watch the next video on your screen. See you there, and remember, your voyage is just beginning.